Produce, my friend.
This video has two main purposes. One is to show you how I used ClyphX Pro to automate certain things in our live set in Ableton. And the second is to give you a quick introduction in how you can achieve what you want to achieve, even if you're not a programmer and ClyphX Pro was always a little bit daunting for you to get into. So the first thing that I want to talk about is what is ClyphX Pro? Basically, it's just a script that you select as control surface in Ableton Live. If you go into the preferences, under link and MIDI, you have your control surface, and for example, my Ableton Push 2 is one control surface and ClyphX Pro would be another one. And once you've installed it, you will see a red outline on the selected clip slot, and then you know it's installed correctly. The basic functionality of ClyphX Pro is that you have some sort of trigger that triggers a list of actions. And it's kind of similar to a MIDI keyboard as well, because the trigger here is that you hit a note, and the action that gets fired is that you hear a sound. And so it's kind of similar to ClyphX, just for naming purposes. In ClyphX, the trigger is called, for example, an X clip, which means this here you can just create a clip. This is a MIDI clip, for example, and rename it. And you have to have like these square brackets, and then the action that you want to trigger, and then a semicolon. And now if I hit this, you will see that the metronome gets triggered, and if I hit it again, nothing happens because it turned off the clip, but now it stopped. And so this is the basic functionality. Some sort of trigger, and that fires a list of actions. Toggle metronome, mute a certain track, whatever. So to really make it applicable, what do I use it for? So I have a band or a duo called Relatiiv, and for our live set, I only wanted to use my laptop and my push. And the way I structured our live set was that I have groups for every track that we play. So the first track is called Suddenly, then the next track is Levels, Soon, etc. And inside of the group, I have the different stems and the different instruments that I play. And now you can imagine that jumping from scene to scene, I will have to have a lot of different things that I have to tweak. And I have to tweak them really fast so that I can transition fast from track to track. And for that, it's just like impossible. The way I set it up to do it all manually on the push, clicking on shift and session and note mode and whatever, and tweaking this and that and muting that track and re-enabling this. And for that specific purpose, I used ClyphX Pro. So what I do is, for example, I smoothly ramp the BPM over a certain period of time to fit the next song. I send custom messages to my push display telling me what to trigger next and when. For example, like a countdown. Oh, 4 bars left, 2 bars left, trigger now. Stuff like that. Folding all groups and unfolding only the group that belongs to the next track in the set. Selecting a specific device I need access to for playing. Starting a specific clip. Smoothly opening up the cutoff until the drop. If I would do this manually, it would mean that I had to play with my right hand and sweep the cutoff with my left hand, but then I wouldn't have any hands free to trigger the next scene or do other things. I also switch my push from session mode to note mode, and I turn off tracks I don't use anymore, and I switch the push scale and root note for certain tracks. So in essence, I would surmise it as triggering multiple changes automatically at once or delayed. And I can show you my development file, my ClyphX development file. And for example, this is the very first thing that happens. I called it set start. And it does a couple of different things to reset any changes that I've made in the live set, just to make sure. So for example, this command, it re-enables all automations. Then I send a push message, set start, enjoy yourselves and have fun, in case we forget that. I set the correct BPM. I wait for a little bit. Then I send another message that I should trigger the guitars and hi-hats. And then I stop everything, like all the clips that might be playing. I fold all the tracks, and then for the first track, suddenly I unfold that group. So I mean, I can hit the first thing. So now everything is folded, and then suddenly the group is unfolded. It starts playing this clip, which is called pre-intro. That's here. It started playing, and it said some other things. It can look quite intimidating now, like this file with all these commands, but it just builds up. So that's what I use for our live set. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is what if I don't know coding? So what is programming? Programming is basically only giving your laptop a specific set of instructions, like these here: stop all and cue, wait 2, BPM 90, stuff like that. This is in ClyphX. And you have to follow certain rules. For example, in ClyphX, it's starting this clip name with the brackets and your identifier, like a name, and always ending a line with a semicolon. You just have to follow these rules, otherwise the computer or the script doesn't understand you. The next thing is that knowledge plus experience equals understanding. And I would encourage you to start by getting the simplest thing to work and then adding one thing and adding one thing. Even though I have a computer science background, I still had to do this myself, where I would be overwhelmed by all the different possibilities and not knowing how to get things to work out the way I wanted to. So I started going through the lessons that ClyphX Pro comes with, the Ableton Live lessons, and really starting to like code them myself or script them or whatever. So this was a good example, like just creating, like installing the script and then just creating one simple thing that triggers the metronome on and off. And then you can see that some things work, and you can build up a little bit of understanding, and then you might want to add something else. So you can try a different thing. So the brackets, we can even like give it a name. For this, we don't have to, but for some other commands, we have to give the X clip a name. So I don't know, test. And then I can select or say track 2 / cell. And when I trigger this one, then my focus should go from track 1, where we're currently at, and it should select track 2, which is the group, suddenly. And then I hit that and it switched over. Okay, cool. So now you got that to work. And then I have something else here, like we can say, okay, square bracket test 2 4 / cell semicolon. And now we can add another action, which is, for example, we want to mute the group number 2. So 2 / mute semicolon. And now we have 2 actions in this thing. And we can see if I hit if I trigger that X clip, we should see that this gets disabled, and we are going to get selected here, I think. Yeah, both happened. This one is muted, and we are on this track. And doing these small things really helps getting comfortable with the language and with using the snippets. And I had to do that myself, and now it's at a point where I can be like, okay, I have a specific process of developing my clips or my instructions, and I'm going to show you in just a second. The next thing is that it's really useful to use the reference or the user manual, and I use it like a Google for possible actions. It tells you how to install it, etc., and you can see like these are all the commands that are possible, and I always use Command and F, like the search, to find certain words or concepts. For example, when I wanted to look up how I can send messages to the push, I just opened the search and hit push and just went through it, and I just there it is, push actions, and then you can start reading here: push mode, push message, X, temporarily show a message, and that's it. I was able to use the reference to find that. And also sometimes I just browse through for inspiration, because you might not know that something is useful, but then you read through it and you see like push scale fixed, and then you know, oh, I could I don't know, trigger a scale change, a change of scale, like all 4 bars or something like that, and that will trigger your inspiration on how you could use it potentially. So next up is how to get there. It's pretty simple. I usually write down my goal. I don't know, transition from track suddenly, and then you know what is your task. I know that the transition from suddenly to soon has to happen. And then second step is write down all the single steps that you would do manually. So I would think about it. Okay, what do I have to do? Fade out elements of suddenly, trigger hi-hats of soon, fade in hi-hats, select new instrument, deactivate old instrument, send message, 4 bars left to drop, something like that. And I will always find something else that I have forgotten to put in there, but then you can go over it and just reiterate. And then step 3 is translate one by one into action commands. So fade out some elements of suddenly. If I'm in here and it's, for example, it's an audio clip, then I would know, okay, I can fade it out with a just simple volume automation. And then I would go into the reference manual and the user manual. I would do Command and F, and for example, look for volume. Adjust preview volume. No, that's not it. Adjust track volume. Volume X. This is a continuous parameter. And then you can always, of course, click on that and see and get more information. Then I would go into my live set and create a new clip, rename it test 3, for example, and then say, I want to automate the volume of the guitars track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Track 7, I would just try doing it like that. Volume ramp 0 semicolon. And that's probably not the right way. Ramp 8, multiply the parameter by value. Okay, so we have to set the timing here and then the value. So I would go back in and adjust that. So maybe it ramps over 80 milliseconds, I guess, and it ramps to 0. And then I would just try it and see if it works. So if we look at this and we trigger it, all right, it doesn't work. Why? Because probably the syntax is wrong. So then I would go back into the manual and read up on how to structure my commands. And so now the next thing I would try is getting rid of this and just guessing maybe that's the correct structure. No. So now I came to the point where you will also definitely come to, it just doesn't work and you don't remember how to make it work. So what I did was I simplified things to test it. So I said, instead of targeting a different track, just target the track the clip is on. And also I had the idea that 0 might mean 0 decibels, which is where the fader already was. So I changed these two things, and then when I triggered it, it started working. Then the next thing was to target this track again, and instead of counting, because I realized that I had different groups in here, so the track numbers wouldn't work, I used the name of the track, which I called guitars-suddenly. So I put it in here with quotations, guitars-suddenly /volume ramp A-20 semicolon, and that worked also. So you always have to simplify things to find the error, or make it easier for yourself to eliminate certain possible failure points, to find the things that you did wrong, and then just build it up again from there. So then it's basically just going through your notes line by line and translating that into the actions. And I would say test a lot, because you might miss one semicolon and then you just keep building up things, and if you don't test them, then you will have it harder to find the errors than when you test it instantly. And then you repeat that until you're done, and you can move on to the next thing you want to do. Here are some things that I found while developing these, and I just thought I would mention them because maybe it will help you as well. First thing is plain text versus formatted text and autocomplete. You really want to use a text editor that does not save your text in formatted text automatically. So I use Visual Studio Code, and it's really cool because I just save this file as txt file, so I can be sure that when I type these quotations or a semicolon, that it doesn't format things in a weird way. When I used text edit once before a show to add something, it automatically switched my quotes from the straight quotes to formatted quotes, and I did not realize that when I typed. So I would copy it back into the clip and nothing would work. And fortunately I found the error, but you have to be aware of that's a possibility. I would suggest you also download free Visual Studio Code and use that, and save your files in .txt for development. And then you just copy it from here. So you take that, hit Command C, go into Live, create a new clip, and just paste it in there. And that way you have the benefit of seeing all your commands in a nice way. The second thing is semicolons at the end of the line. Sometimes you might forget, so that's always something that you want to check, that after actions and at the end of the line you have a semicolon. The right type of quotes, I already touched on that. Then the correct names of tracks and clips and devices. If I misspell guitars here and put 2 R's, it wouldn't work. And you might look for different things like semicolons, or there might be a duplication in track names, so ClyphX doesn't know which one you mean. Things like that. Yeah, testing often and backing up once in a while. When you fuck up somewhere in the middle of a block, so when you change something in the middle and then it doesn't work anymore, what I found myself doing is a thing I called divide and conquer, which is you just, like, you have this huge block here, for example, the set start command. This is all one action list for one X clip. And let's say I change something in here. I don't want it to say high cut, but low cut. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. What I find useful is duplicating the script first, and then just deleting the bottom half and starting with the first half and see if everything works in there. And if that doesn't, then just deleting a half again and trying that. And so you can find the error more quickly, because if you have one line where it doesn't work, then that disables the whole clip. And when the first quarter works, then you can revert back, or you can add the second one again and see if it works or not. And just doing it like that helped me find some errors more quickly. And that's basically it. If you still have questions, I'm happy to answer them or give you a hint if I can. I would say just start using it. Try to get it installed and get the metronome thing to work, and then you can build it up from there and really start building it small and step by step. All right, that's it. Have fun with it and good luck.